Good evening, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this video, we are going to replace the very, very crusty soft lines on my 1989 Ford F350 7.3 liter IDI diesel behind me, named Bertha. And without further ado, let's get started. I did not intend to film a video today. I intended to swap in some tires so my tires wouldn't have kittens. Then I got to looking around here and I saw that and this and that, and I said, you know, before I do any more test drives, just to make sure that my wife doesn't collect on my life insurance, I should probably replace this. So that's what we're doing. All right, we're gonna dive right into this. I've got a clamp on the brake line to try to minimize the amount of brake fluid we lose. I have set up a jack stand for those nervous Nellies out there. So I have the jack and the jack stand holding the weight, and we're gonna get to it. So we're gonna start here on this side. This is a SAE truck, so this is a 9/16 on the caliper bolt. That came out loose and broke loose anyway, halfway decently. It's the other side that's far more interesting. There's a brake clip that we're gonna have to figure out how to wiggle out after we break the tube nut loose over there and get that moving. Okay, so here's this. Let's see here, so this should have a crush washer on both sides of this connection. And we do, so at least that was done correctly. Well, I guess I'll leave that there, just knowing my luck, it will pop out at the worst possible time. I'll lose track of it. This is called a banjo bolt. I have no clue why, but it has a whole board in it so brake fluid can go through. Hold on to this, it's important. If you've got a new crush washer, good to know. If you don't have new crush washers, as long as those aren't in horrible shape, you can use them over again. So that's it on this side. We don't have anything else we gotta do right now. We need to move over to the distribution side, which is right vaguely where my finger's pointing. And let's go look at that. Okay, this, I'm not going to be able to film the removal of this, but I can point it out to you. So this right here, this is that brake clip I was talking about. Don't touch that yet. And then here's our tube nut right here. We need to break this loose. Be careful with this. You're going to want to use a line wrench or a brake wrench or a flare wrench, depending, you know, whatever you want to call it. We want to break this loose first, then work on wiggling this out. I think this is the head of it right here. Let me feel. No, that's the feet. Someone who slid it in from, they went that way with it, towards the camera. That's interesting. So, about those brake clips. They break super easy, har. I would not suggest you remove this until you have a replacement. There is a Ford style. You can pick them up at your local auto parts store. I will show you that here in a second, but don't go after this thing unless you have a replacement or unless you're servicing something really new, because they break very easily. So it's much, much better just to have a new one ready to go. And it can get pretty ugly removing them, involving screwdrivers and pliers and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, this one, yeah, how did they, I guess at the factory they had a different clearance to work on that. These might be the original 1989 brake lines. Surprised somebody hadn't gotten themselves killed. Okay, I've done all my blathering. I'm gonna break this loose right here. And when you do break this loose, make sure you're not rotating the brake line with it. You will twist it and snap it, and then you have to run a fresh line and you'll really hate yourself. So be gentle with it until you're sure that the tube nut is spinning freely on the brake line. All right. Okay, you may notice something's missing. Brake line is out. This is similar to what I'm used to. Here's our clip. And it was on like this, I'm pretty sure. Or it was on like that. But the end shaped like a U was facing us, and that actually is the top of the clip. So the newer Ford clips look a little bit different. I'll have to see if I can make it work. If not, I'm gonna have to squish this one down and reuse it. As you can see, we are dripping brake fluid. That's fine. Probably needed to get fluid, fresh fluid through here anyway. So now that is done. By the way, this is a flare wrench or a line wrench. The fitting was a 7/16, which was this side. So there's that. And now that all that is out of the way, we're gonna dig into our new lines and I'm gonna do a stare and compare. See which one's what, because I bought these quite some time ago, and in their infinite wisdom, these companies don't really label stuff as left and right and all that good stuff. Basically seeing which one curves the right way. That one doesn't want to curve the right way, and it matters because this end of the line, if you look at it closely, it's not a perfect hexagon. This top part is rounded, so it can only go in one way, which means that the curve of the line really will affect how much you're going to fight to try to get that line in. So if we compare this side, it's kind of doing the same thing. They both do that. You can see this one has this probably worn in by time. One's a hair longer than the other, I think. No, not really, about the same. Man. I wonder, is it the same part number? 7836951, 783, okay. So these are symmetrical lines. It's the exact same part number. So that means I'm just gonna have to bend it to however I need to bend it to make it fit. And what I like to do is I get started with the hard part, this end. So that's where we're gonna start. This U-shaped clip, you wanna leave that in there. This helps to hold the brake line in place, so you do not need to remove this. You just leave it there. All right, I'm gonna start working on the other end. I'm gonna go top side, make sure, top off the brake fluid. And then we're gonna get started. I'm gonna grab my bag of brake clips and see what I can do with it. In case you were wondering, this is the newer Ford style. And I just tested it on the brake line itself. I should be able to tap it in. We'll use this side going towards the front of the vehicle. Should work. Pro tip, make sure that you start trying to screw in your brake line before you lock in the soft line. That way, you have the ability to wiggle the line around to line up with the tube nut, because tube nuts are notoriously difficult to thread in, because then you wind up having to try to bend the brake line, and that sometimes does not go well at all. So do it this way, and then push it back through the hole, and then knock your clip in, and then tighten it up, and you should be good to go. All right, there we go. Now what I wound up having to do using these newer style clips is, instead of it going in like this, couldn't get that to work, because you see how those tips point upwards a little bit? So that wasn't working. So I had to flip it like this, and that worked. But the trade-off is because of this little hat it has, or forehead, what do you want to call it, it is not engaging all the way. As you can see, it's going to go most of the way, but not all the way. So time will tell whether or not this is going to fall out, but this works for me right here, right now. I leave it up to you guys at home to decide whether or not it's going to work for you. Anyway, moving on. So now we're going to work on taking care of that. So Raybestos was kind enough to include a new set of crush washers. So we're going to roll with that. We don't have to reuse our crush washers. Make sure that before you reinstall the banjo bolt that it is reasonably clean. Be right back. So I need to spray mine down, actually. One of the great disadvantages to having to work in the grass, even though you have a full pole barn behind you, because there's an RV shoved in it, is dirt gets in everything. So I went ahead and I sprayed off and out our banjo bolt with some brake cleaner. Get all the dirt, grit, and particulate out, because that could potentially clog your brake line or mess with your calipers. So you're going to take your bolt, put one on there, and then you're going to take your line. I believe this one goes like this here. So you're going to insert that through the top. Then you get your second crush washer, and you're going to drop it on the ground. You know, once for luck. It's very important. And then get that on there. It's kind of awkward because I still have this clamp in place. And then we're going to shove the entire assembly in place and finger thread a little bit so it can't run away on us. And then, if you remember, it was a 9/16 for our bolt. This is actually the first time I think looked up front. Glad I did. Been wanting to take this truck out on a test drive for a while, but you can't do that when your brakes are scary. Yeah, I'm not a big YouTube channel. I'm not an adventure mechanicking channel. I don't get all the mad clicks for driving a vehicle that's operating on hopes and dreams. Anyway, there you have it. Now this is all fine and dandy, but we need to do two things. We need to bleed our caliper in case any air got in. So we're gonna get on our bleeder, work on that. And what we're gonna have to do, because I did this process not too long ago with another vehicle and it almost got me, is double, triple check that both sides of this connection are tight. And by doing that, I mean, before you put this thing back on the ground and you do stuff with it, you do crash braking. You just hit the pedal as hard as you can. And then you come back around and you see if you have fluid dripping down up here by your shock tower, or my finger's waving, or if you have fluid dripping out here, and it's rare, but, or see if you have fluid coming out of this soft line. It's rare, but occasionally you get bad parts. So, double, triple check it. Always. You don't mess with brakes. Okay, let's get on the bleeding. So, very conveniently for me, our bleeder here is a 3/8, which I had because of my flare wrench here. Now, keep in mind, if this bleeder has not been serviced in a while, there is a very good chance that it's clogged. And you're going to need to take it all the way out and unclog it. which generally means take like a thin piece of metal or something like that, insert it up in the bleeder, knock all the crap out of it, and then take some compressed air and spray through it until it's clear. Because I still don't see fluid out of here. Let me zoom in. You guys probably can't hardly see anything. That's a little better. I don't see any fluid out of here at this point, and I've opened the bleeder. As you can see, I can move it with my fingers now. Which means either this thing was really low on fluid, or we have a leak. Looks like we have a leak, because I see fluid dripping and it ain't coming out of this bleeder. So hang on. Alright, so that should be tighter. Let us see what that does. We are still leaking from under the fitting. Let me take this back out and see if something did not get in position, because we are absolutely leaking underneath our connection, not from our bleeder. All right, it took me a minute, but I think I found the problem. And just to verify, let me look at a brand new crush washer that was sent by, well, not sent by, but comes in the Raybestos kit. Check this out. So here we are. This is gonna be a pain, but take a look. Raybestos on the left, Ford on the right. The crush washers are not the same thickness, so it doesn't seal properly and you get a leak. So I'm gonna reuse the old Ford ones, see what we get. All right, I'm gonna let the flow back. Let's try this again. Because I'm not seeing a leak anymore. So, yeah. Not sure what I'm going to do on the other side, but still, this bleeder's looking pretty crusty. Now, if you take the bleeder all the way out, there we go. Now we're starting to get flow. But you see, this bleeder looks like it's spun into some kind of insert. Yeah, it is. That's kind of weird. But we're getting flow now, so that is good. I'll let that drip for a bit. It's called gravity bleeding. Meanwhile, I'm going to take this bleeder, such as it is, over to the bench, and let me see if I can come up with a way to separate these two pieces, because I don't think they're supposed to be together. That doesn't strike me as correct. And then probably this bleeder's clogged, and I'm going to see what I can do to take care of that. So with the tools I have, I couldn't figure out how to separate the two without damaging something. So I just screwed it back in, and that's something I will address down the road when I've got... Basically, I need something that can let me hold threaded items without destroying the threads. I don't have that, at least not right this very second. So, gravity bled for a bit. You'll notice there's nothing else dripping. So this is not leaking, best I can tell. And we're not leaking up there, which is good. So next step, crash testing. I'm gonna go hop in, I'm gonna slam the brake just as hard as I can and see what we get. I'm gonna put you guys right here because I suspect that's what's gonna leak. Let's find out. Let's see, did we leak? I don't see any fresh drips over there. And no fresh drips from the caliper. Show you that. So I think we're okay. I think we can call this side done, which is groovy. So what I will do for the passenger side is I'm going to take a look at it, and if there's any differences, I'll put in some segments for those differences, but otherwise it should be the exact same process. I'm not going to film it. I'll bring you back when I have everything done and we can actually do the test drive. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a new day. So yesterday was the passenger side. I repeat, the passenger side of the vehicle. Today is the driver. And looking here, somebody replaced this line in the past. It's actually okay. I'm still going to replace it because I have the part and I just want everything to kind of age equally. Topically, nothing looks really different here than on the passenger side. This clip was replaced with something, I don't know what, but if you're dealing with an original brake setup, that won't be relevant to you, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Otherwise, I'm not seeing anything different. The line is exactly the same part number. You're going to do the exact same thing that you saw me do. So I'm not going to film this side. I'm just going to get it done, and then we'll do our sanity checks, and then we'll take this out for a drive and check out the brakes. Alrighty, I've got everything back together. I encountered no issues on the passenger side. The driver's side went just the same as the passenger. Easier because the line was newer and had been replaced. Put a clip in, all that went fine. Knock the stuffings out of my beauty ring here. There's definitely a trick to getting these on, and I haven't quite learned it yet. So make sure when you're all done, if you followed my way, that you top off your brake fluid, which I have. I did my crash stops. Nothing appears to be leaking, so looks like we are good to go. And that is how you change out your front soft lines. So I thought I was all done with my brake video, but then I came and I looked in the back and I saw that and this and this and that, and I said, dang it, I gotta fix this too. So here we are, rear soft line, ready, set, go. All right, first thing we're gonna need to do is we want to take loose our two hard lines going into our junction block right here. You want to do that before you start trying to lift this bolt, which that's what this actually is. It's a bolt. It's supposed to have a vent tube, which this one's quite clogged, but a vent tube that kind of goes up, and someone had it here. They zip tied it, but it completely rotted away. So we're going to do that first. Should be 7/16 line wrench for that one. So we'll go ahead and break that loose. Ooh. There it goes. And see, we're able to spin. I mean, the line's flexing, but the tube nut is spinning. So that's fine. We'll get our other tube nut. So we got good flow. That's nice. Still, there's something up with my brakes. I have to push the pedal pretty far to get them to start to bite. I don't think I got the rears way out. I think there's air somewhere. I need to get somebody to help bleed them. We'll see. All right, so that would be tight. This should be loosened. Ooh, no, that's tightened. Yeah, make sure you don't get that backwards. You can and will strip these out. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. This one wants to fight me, so Let me hit it with some penetrating lube and I'll bring you back. All right, a little bit of penetrating lube. I got this loose. So now let's see if we can't get this guy loose. And he, you know, I'm really beginning to think he's metric, because I tried a 9/16, too small. 5/8, obviously, as you can see here, is way too big. Oh, I really want to say it's a 14 or a 15 and just call it a day. Let me go grab those wrenches. All right, so 15 seems to fit better-ish, sort of. Let's try and round. This is all sorts of fun. So you can see at 14 don't want to go. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I mean, that's a zip tie. Oh, that would help. Let me see if I can get this off. Oh, I can get it off, or I can cut it off. Either case, I've got this exposed now, so maybe that was our problem. Okay, that's definitely too small. Let's see. No, that wants to round, so it's probably 9/16. It's just this truck hates me, so let me go grab that. So finally got the 9/16 to get on there, and that's what it was. That's what I figured it was, but the hose was getting in the way. So as you can see, this is kind of like a banjo bolt in the sense that it's hollow, and that is to allow for vapor to exit from the gear oil that's in here. And the reason why we want that is because if it overpressurizes, it wears out the seals at the rear pinion and the front pinion, and then they leak. And it can cause leaks out of your differential cover as well. So we absolutely want this thing venting, being a vent tube. Go ahead and get this out. It's stuck again. All right, anyway, I'm gonna get this out. And then we'll take these off again, but that kind of starts a clock, right? Because then you're peeing brake fluid everywhere. So you gotta have your replacement ready and get these threaded in. And if you do that, you know, then you can clamp this off and stop the pee. You could do that. Yeah, that's how I'll do it. Just because once you clamp this off, the clamp thing I use, it just kind of hangs around and gets in the way. It's very annoying. But it saves you from having to top off brake fluid every 5 minutes. Because oddly enough, even though this truck is a front disc, rear drum, it has a very small brake reservoir. I mean, my 2001 trucks is much bigger. Even, yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get this done. Here is our replacement line. See, it comes with the junction block built in. You got your setup for your feeds in. And as I said up front, you're going to want to not lock this in until you get your brake line started. Makes it much easier to get these compression fittings to line up. Or I guess they're flare fittings technically. Yeah, double flared. Anyway, it looks like, looking from the old, that, gosh, good job camera, that the orientation, because it's not symmetrical, so it looks like the flare fittings are towards the top versus the bottom. You'll notice we have it's solid versus there being a slot, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. So let's go ahead and get this switched out. and then we'll clamp it, work on top side. I did already put my fingers up here and feel. There's still a clamp here, not a clamp, a clip. Still a clip here, so which means this is probably the original 34-year-old brake line. Nice. All right, so this is what's commonly called an ear clamp, and we need to cut it off, so that's what we're doing. And there we go. Just be advised, it gets kind of hot, so be careful when you grab. All right, so this part's done. Now we need to clean out our vent. So you can see it's crusty on this side with vent juice, and then on this side, Dobby found it and plugged it up. So just gonna clean that out real quick. Use a screwdriver. Just kind of start digging at it here. And once we kind of scrape, take a look, and we'll run a little compressed air through it, maybe spray it out with some brake clean, get it nice and clean, and then we're ready to reinsert it onto the axle tube. And there we go. Threads here look okay, so I'm not really going to worry about cleaning out these threads, because for where it goes down to mate through here, we're good. But I do need to try to find some tubing, some oil-resistant tubing, preferably, that'll fit on this and is long enough for me to make a new vent tube, because you do need a vent tube, right? So let me go check my stash and see what I have. Little something like this. This is 3/8 tubing. So, I mean, I need to throw a clamp on there, but this will work. This is long enough. I can hang it off of a frame rail, and we'll have our vent tube again. So, all right, well, here's how we look. I'm probably gonna have to actually take this back off real quick, tighten this down, and then put this back on, because it is interfering with the fit. But get this centered after you've gotten these guys started, and then snug that up, snug these up, and then we're ready to go up there. All right, let me kind of zoom in here. Behave, camera. There we go. So that's our target. We have another 7/16 tube nut that we want to break loose first. And I'm trying to get a view on the clip that my fingers tell me are there, but I can't get eyes on it. So I may have to get my inspection mirror out so I can kind of see what it looks like. But let's take care of that tube nut first. We want to break it loose while everything's still locked up tight, so we have something to pull against. And then we'll take a look at our clip and figure out how to take it out. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a new day. So I got stuck here on this rear brake line. I was in danger of rounding this out. So what I did is I took the clip out. It's another standard Ford clip. And I pulled this down, as you can see, and I got a wrench on the line. And this is a 5/8, and it's a 7/16. So I put a wrench on that and a wrench on this, and then I pushed on them both together in opposite directions to double my separating force, I guess you want to call it that. And that got it done. It finally popped free, so I can get this line out, which was good, because this was starting to look a little bit sketchy. I was thinking I was going to have to re-terminate a brake line, and flaring brake lines is poopy. I do not like it. Anyway, got that. keep on moving and just get the new line head in there, and then I'll put in a fresh clip and call it a day. Well, getting the lines done anyway. We got to re-bleed the back brakes and the front brakes, since we replaced all the soft lines. Alrighty folks, went ahead, had my son help me bleed the brakes and took her for a test drive. The brake pedal feel isn't still quite what I want. I think I need to bring the rear brakes in a little bit more, but there definitely are brakes and they are good, and I didn't see any leaks. I will monitor for leaks for the next little bit, but I think this is a successful repair. Alright guys, that's it for this episode where we replaced all the soft lines on my 1989 Ford F-350 7.3 liter IDI diesel named Bertha. If you found this video interesting, if you found it entertaining, if you learned something, please consider sharing, and subscribing. That does help to grow the channel, which allows me to bring you more stuff like this. Please also leave a comment. I like to read them, I like to reply to them, I like to learn from them. Lastly guys, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. I even upload them to YouTube. I'll see you guys next episode.